Unnecessary. New tonight, the immigration minister defending the release of multiple Chinese workers from the detention center after irregularities in their work permits. This as the opposition questions what irregularities. The leader insists the immigration minister answer the question. Plus, heat waves, record-breaking temperatures unveil an invisible killer. A climate change specialist stressing the dangers are not isolated. Then, in our news at 7:30, we learn for the first time of nearly 300 migrants apprehended over the weekend. The immigration minister speaks. Our news live at 7 starts right now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Candino Knowles. Amid allegations he superseded immigration officials and forced the release of multiple Chinese workers, Immigration Minister Keith Bell is on the record tonight explaining what happened. We'll get to all the details from Brittany McDermott in a moment, but first, a murder suspect will remain in custody after the Court of Appeal upheld a judge's decision to deny him bail for his own safety. Alcott Fox is accused of the November 10, 2022 revenge murder of Malik Fernandez in Rollville, Exuma, who was accused of killing his brother in 2018. Fernandez was killed shortly after he relocated to Exuma from New Providence. Now, the prosecution argued Fox would meet the same fate if released on bail. Senior Justice Bernard Turner agreed, saying there were no conditions the court could impose to allay concerns about Fox's safety. But Fox appealed the decision on the basis there was no evidence he would be in danger if released. The Court of Appeal disagreed and affirmed the judge's decision. Over on Grand Bahama, a 21-year-old man arraigned on charges of rape, appearing before Magistrate LaQuay Lang yesterday. Prosecutors claim Lawrence Arthur is responsible for an unlawful sexual assault earlier this month. He was granted $8,000 bail with 1 or 2 sureties. He's expected back in court on August 28th. Meanwhile, police need your help finding a man they believe is responsible for an armed robbery and sexual assault that happened around 9:45 a.m. yesterday. Police say the victim was on the outside of a friend's home on Cowpen Road when she was approached by an unknown man who was allegedly armed and robbed her of an undisclosed amount of money and then sexually assaulted her. Police say the suspect then gained entry into the home and subsequently robbed a male resident of an undisclosed amount of cash and his cell phone. The suspect fled the area in an unknown direction. Police are appealing to anyone with information to call 911, 919, or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. All right, and now to the forced release of multiple Chinese workers by the immigration minister, who, while admitting there was some irregularities, said taking foreigners to the detention center solved nothing. Brittany McDermott has more.
The immigration minister is on the defense after the Free National Movement accused him of superseding immigration officials and releasing Chinese workers employed at the British Colonial Hotel. The FNM claims up to 100 Chinese nationals were working at the site without valid work permits.
In January of this year, the Department of Immigration, as part of its ongoing efforts to ensure compliance with our immigration laws, discovered a number of irregularities with the status of workers at the British Colonial Hilton construction site. Whilst the irregularities required immediate action, it was determined that given all of the circumstances, taking the persons at the detention center was unnecessary.
Bell did not detail what those irregularities were. This isn't the first time the workforce at the point was brought into question. Over the years, the Department of Labor took issue with the ratio of Bahamians to foreign nationals employed at the property. As for the most recent irregularities, Bell says they were swiftly corrected.
It is important to note that the employer, as with almost every other major hotel redevelopment, has a heads of agreement with the government of the Bahamas to permit the temporary importation of foreign construction workers. Secondly, the irregularities found at the site could and were expeditiously cured by the employer.
The British Colonial Hotel is set to reopen this winter after closing its doors back in February 2022. Bell says the completion of ongoing renovations at the hotel will address and add critically needed hotel rooms in New Providence and provide employment for Bahamians. After his prepared statement, reporters sought to question him on the matter, but this happened.
Thank you. What
were the irregularities? To facilitate the release of the Chinese?
Reporting for Our News, I'm Brittany McDermott.
All right. Meanwhile, the Free National Movement questioning how workers with irregularities that you just heard about working on the British colonial Hilton remain unanswered. Marlena Leonard has the story.
The Free National Movement has called for the resignation of Immigration and Labour Minister Keith Bell in recent weeks, and now F&M leader Michael Pintard is raising questions surrounding an event where senior immigration officers complained after they were allegedly told to release workers from an immigration bus after responding to reports of unregistered workers at the British Colonial Hotel. The opposition leader says many questions are still unanswered.
What officials have said to me directly is that they are in no position to tell us the different categories of illegal workers that were at the British Colonial, because they never had a chance to process them.
Immigration Minister Keith Bell told reporters at Cabinet this morning that taking the workers with irregularities to the detention centre was unnecessary given the circumstances, and that the irregularities were quickly cured by the employer. But Pintard says the people deserve more details.
They ought to answer the questions raised. He says that no need to answer because the irregularities have been corrected. What irregularities? How long were persons without correct work permit? When did they come into the country? By what means? Was it through the airport? Did they overstay? Or when they came on a tourist visa, knowing full well that they were going to execute a contract? All of these are relevant issues that he should ask, so that nobody is put in the spotlight who need not be put in the spotlight, because if he can give an explanation that makes sense, then we leave the issue alone.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks a lot, Marlena. Well, heat waves, record-breaking temperatures unveil an invisible killer. Marlena Leonard, she also spoke with a climate change specialist who is stressing the dangers are not isolated. We'll get to that in a moment, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson, he's standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Kendino, and a happy Tuesday evening, everybody. Another warm day around the islands. Temperatures back into the 90s with those feels-like temperatures in triple digits. We had some clouds, but those clouds are still going to hang around, giving us a couple of nearby showers. Temperature right now outside our studios, 86 degrees. Your winds are out of the east at 10 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature very humid, 94. Taking a look at temperatures around the islands right now, it's 85 in Freeport, 86 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, Great Harbor Key, over Nickel, San Andres, and in Governor's Harbor. Alistown, Bimini, you guys are 87 in the Central Bahamas, 86 in Kemps Bay, cloudy skies here, 87s in Artistown, Cat Island, and in Port Townsend, Salvador, Deadman's Key. Pick up 86 in Georgetown. 86, Duncan Down, Ragged Island, Delectable Bay. More 87s popping up in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Abrahams Bay, Matthew Down in Agua, and our neighbors to the southeast, Tricks and Caicos Islands. You round out our temperature profile at 87. Satellite and radar composite, lots of moisture in place across our area. That's courtesy of a tropical wave that's now moving towards the west and more west-northwest, actually. Some showers and thunderstorms spreading across the southeast and central Bahamas. We also have that upper-level disturbance near the northwest Bahamas with some moisture in place, and that's keeping some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. We will continue to see these showers and thunderstorm activity as the systems stay with us for at least another 24 hours. The wave will move out, high pressure will build back across us, and then we have some Saharan dust that should get in here for the weekend. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us and look at your extended forecast still to come.
Still to come in our news, an invisible killer, record high temperatures this summer, both on land and sea. A local climate change specialist weighs in. And while residents struggle with scorching heat, widespread outages on Eleuthera make for an uncomfortable summer. The power company says the problem is issues with generation. And over on Grand Bahama, a conference for leadership and fellowship comes your way soon. The story when Our News returns.
Just when Leo was about to buy
The world has seen some record high temperatures this summer, both on land and sea. We certainly can feel it here on land, but local climate change activist Marjan Finlayson spoke with our Marlena Leonard about it.
We've all been feeling the heat for the past few weeks, and climate change specialist Marjan Finlayson is stressing that the heat isn't isolated.
I feel like this particular summer, it just felt like a lot of things were happening at once, right? So there's I did like a thread on Twitter that was just like, hey guys, look at everything that's happening. So like the heat that's happening in the ocean right now, the increased marine heat waves that we expect to see.
One of her biggest concerns is the knock-on effects of marine heat waves like mass death of fish and coral bleaching, the latter already taking place off the coast of Florida, where the water surface level temperature was said to be 90 degrees.
Now, it hasn't been mentioned here. I feel like the Perry Institute of Marine Science probably has some more information on that, hopefully. They should be coming out with more information on that if we should be expecting more coral bleaching in our areas. Right now, a lot of our corals are actually suffering from, the skittledy and get stony coral tissue loss disease at the moment. So that on top of the coral bleaching that's possible because of extreme heat temperatures in the ocean, it's very nerve-wracking.
And it's not just the Americas feeling the heat. Senior extreme heat advisor for the World Meteorological Organization, John Nairn, warned today the sustained heat both day and night with no time for the body to recover leads to increased cases of heart attacks and death. A recent study calculated that 60,000 additional people died because of extreme heat in Europe last summer. Nairn shares.
That number is considered to be quite conservative by the experts who did the work as well as government. And it's worth noting that that number is for Europe. And of course, we're seeing extreme heat waves widespread around the world. And Europe has some of the strongest early warning systems and heat health action plans in the world. So you can imagine what the numbers are likely to be globally.
Our News has done a series of stories on beating the heat. You can find those on our socials for tips to stay cool. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks a lot, Marlena. And obviously a not so comfortable summer, especially for residents on Eleuthera the past few days, as a generation unit at Bahamas Power and Light's Eleuthera Power Station failed this past Friday, leaving residents to suffer through widespread outages. In a statement, BPL said the issue was exacerbated by the temporary loss of another unit at Rock Sound Power Station the following day. Central and South Eleuthera Member of Parliament Clay Sweeting telling Our News earlier today he was hoping to meet with BPL officials today.
They're on a schedule as they look at to assess the issues there. I should be meeting with BPL today to get further clarification on what's going on, whether it's generation, when the repairs will happen. But so we're working along with them. I also spoke to the Minister of Works and the PS at the Ministry of Works, who is assessing the situation. So as soon as I could get some further information, hopefully today, on the status.
BPL's statement noted specialists were flown in on Sunday to repair the Hatchet Bay and Rock Sound units. Meanwhile, Sweeting saying the issues are affecting everyone.
I understand with not just businesses, but you have old persons, you have infants, so it affects everyone when power generation is an issue.
And now to Grand Bahama again, where it will host the Church of God of Prophecy's Caribbean Leadership Conference this year. The major event slated to bring hundreds of people from across the Caribbean. Conference organizers telling Our News they saw the island's need and decided to take the conference there to help the economy.
The reason for moving this conference from Nassau to Grand Bahama is merely to aid in the economic boost within that particular island.
One of the reasons why we moved to Grand Bahama is because we recognize the challenges that that island has faced. And so as a church, as a body, we felt that we can play a small part by hosting our conference there and have an impact on that community.
Now, the event to be held this week will bring members of the denominations, or bring members from denominations from around the Caribbean to dialogue on matters of faith and learn leadership skills essential in fulfilling two of the church's core values. Committee member Dr. Woodley Thompson on the conference purpose.
The purpose of the conference is to empower to develop existing leaders as well as to encourage the up-and-coming leaders to get the tools, the skill set that they would need, as well as the inspiration to move forward in their personal ministry and in their collective ministry wherever they may be located. It will also be a time of fellowship because we are having our brethren from around the Caribbean join in this particular effort.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as wildfires rage in a Southern Europe heat wave. Plus, McDonald's told to shut down franchises after claims of abuse. And later, a look at gems from the past in an exhibit at Elizabeth Estates Library. Get a sneak peek into Bahamian life that predates independence when our news returns. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Wildfires are raging in several areas of southern Europe, including All right, we certainly apologize for that, but wildfires are raging in several areas of southern Europe, including mainland Greece. The most severe fire in the country currently is in the All right. Wildfires, as we said, are raging in several areas of southern Europe, including mainland Greece. The most severe fire in the country currently is in the Derevon-Korea region. Smoke billowing from the area can be seen on satellite imagery. The EU sending firefighting planes to Greece as the country attempts to tackle the fires. Meanwhile, the Italian island of Sardinia expected to see a high of 114.8 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon. The World Meteorological Organization says extreme weather patterns highlight the need for more climate action. McDonald's is being told by UK lawmakers to terminate franchise deals if branches are not following labor law. Chair of the Business and Trade Committee MP Darren Jones said claims of sexual assault, harassment, racism and bullying by current and recent UK staff from the fast food chain were some of the most appalling he had seen. A BBC investigation has found workers as young as 17 are being groped and harassed almost routinely. McDonald's has admitted that it had fallen short and deeply apologized. Meanwhile, the 2026 Commonwealth Games are in doubt after the Australian state of Victoria cancelled its plans to host due to budget blowouts. Commonwealth Games Federation struggled to find a host before Victoria volunteered in April 2022, but the Premier said the project and the projected costs had now tripled and become well and truly too much for the state to bear.
$6 to $7 billion for a 12-day sporting event, we are not doing that. That does not represent value for money. That is all cost and no benefit. What's become clear is that the cost of hosting these games in 2026 is not the $2.6 billion which was budgeted and allocated and is sitting, vast majority of which has not been spent.
They did not step in as the host at the last minute, as indicated by the Premier earlier today. The detailed budgetary implications announced today had not been cited or discussed with the CGF or CGA ahead of being notified of the government's decision.
And at least 10 people, including several children, have been killed after a river burst into its banks in Colombia. Officials reporting as much, saying rising water levels caused mudslides that swept away homes in a municipality southeast of the capital, Bogota. Rescue workers are searching for at least a dozen people who have been reported missing. They say among those killed are 3 children aged 12, 10, and 6. Colombian President Gustavo Petro expressing his condolences on Twitter. And now to the region, as health authorities in Trinidad and Tobago report a 3rd case of monkeypox. On Tuesday, they urged residents to follow all protocols as they try to manage the outbreak. A statement from the Ministry of Health confirmed the new cases on Monday and said all 3 patients are in home isolation and do not require hospital care. Trinidad and Tobago is now the 113th country to record active cases. And finally, the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands police force investigating a deadly shooting this morning. 1 man was killed and 4 other people injured. Police say the incident happening just before 1 o'clock this morning outside the Shisha Lounge in Grace Bay Providenciales. They say the attack targeted a group in full view of innocent bystanders. Acting Commissioner of Police Rodney Adams condemned the attack, saying criminals continue to show their brazenness and disdain and lack of respect for life. He appealed to anyone with information to please come forward. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was July 18th. And then in our news at 7:30, a senator says revitalizing downtown Nassau still requires a lot of work. We've got comments out of the latest stakeholder meeting. And are you having to work outside in the scorching sun? Find out how to beat the heat when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. The oldest church and the newly named governor at the time of a local subdivision that was named in his honor also. We'll find out. It's time now for your look at today in history, the day that was July 18th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history in 1802, St. Matthew's Anglican Church officially opened. It's the oldest standing church in the Bahamas, built after the arrival of the Loyalists. The purpose of the church was to accommodate persons living in the eastern part of town of Nassau. Its steeple and clock, both erected in 1816, and for many years was the only reliable source of time on the island. Then in 1960, Robert Stapleton became governor of the Bahamas, succeeding Oswald Raynor Arthur. During his time as governor, the Bahamas received its first constitution and was granted self-internal rule on January 7, 1964, which was celebrated as Constitution Day. In his honor, Stapleton Garden Subdivision and Stapleton School on New Providence were named after him. He served from 1960 to 1964. Then in 2017, the 6th Commonwealth Youth Games were officially opened in Nassau by then Prime Minister Hubert Minnis. It was the first time in more than 50 years that a Commonwealth Games event was held in CARICOM. The Games were held from July 19th to 23rd and featured 8 disciplines and up to 1,300 athletes. The Games were officially started in 2000, but this 6th installment ended up being the largest Commonwealth Youth Games ever held and the largest sporting event hosted by the Bahamas at the time. July 18th, 2020. There were 2 strikes on the same day, greatly impacting transportation. The first was an airport sickout that affected more than 17 airports across the Bahamas. Hundreds of airport employees also staged a sick-out, which impacted operations at Lyndon Pindling International Airport. The sick-out involved Bahamas Public Services Union members and stemmed from several issues, including an outstanding industrial agreement and money owed. And finally, also on the same day in 2020, an estimated 75% of bus drivers went on strike. To get the attention of government, the Bahamas Unified Bus Drivers Union held a series of peaceful demonstrations across the island after the group said it was not satisfied with the relief package promised by the Housing and Transport Minister. All right, well, tucked in a library in Elizabeth Estates are gems from the past that gives us a sneak peek into Bahamian life that predates independence. Displays of antique household items, vintage music records, and throwback technology decorate the library as residents got tours of the displays today. Library Supervisor Janet Adamson speaking with Our News about the exhibition, which she says can be useful for students.
It is something that they could go back, they read about it, and the teachers are teaching them about it, a little about it, but more so college students more get into it and getting the very background and the history of what's going on and how the movement really started.
Library officials are inviting you to come and take the tour, which lasts until the end of the month and is free of charge. Adamson encouraging Bahamian youth to come and learn about their history.
We had quite a few, people came in and to view the exhibition, which in the exhibition is something that are telling the younger people where we were and where we are now.
Why is that important?
It is very important because the younger people do not know where we were. Some people might not, our parents might not be telling them where we were and to where we are now. So to showing them exactly what is going on and how it works for us.
All right, well, it's a real stereotype that's a real problem. Men are far less likely to visit a doctor than women, and the same can be said about regular visits to dermatologists. In fact, board-certified dermatologist at Family Medicine Center, Dr. Jamie Davis, says she finds that it's even difficult to get men wearing skincare products like sunscreen. Well, the good news is there are options. Megan Shepard reports.
It's something where there are lighter formulas that don't feel as heavy, that if we can get those in the hands of guys and use it every day, we'll be making big strides.
There's even a common trend specific to Bahamians.
One of the main things to talk about is this condition that we see tons of men suffering with that can lead to scarring. So they'll end up with big bumps that are scars from chronic ingrown hairs. So this pseudofolliculitis barbae, PFB, we'll see it in beards where men shave, and then the hair starts to grow a little, they have to shave again, and then there's all these little fragments of hair get buried into the skin. Same back here.
And if you do suffer from consistent ingrown hairs, Dr. Davis suggests modifying your shaving routine.
There are shaving powders that can be very helpful, depilatories that aren't involving cutting the skin or, cutting the hair. Same back here, when you go to the barber, not to have them razor it, but just clip it so that a little bit of length remains. Because once those ingrowns start, there are infections and there's scarring.
She also recommends taking a complete break from shaving and trimming your hair.
Try very carefully, one by one, to just lift those hairs up out of the follicle. They're usually sort of looped in, but we don't pluck them. We just lift them out so that the skin isn't perceiving all these sort of little splinters in it from the hair.
And if you don't know where to begin with skincare products, she says a sunscreen is always a must, along with these helpful ingredients.
There are some shaving products for men that I really like that have a little salicylic acid in them, or face washes that have salicylic acid. That softens up the upper layer so that hair is less likely to get trapped.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
All right, some good and useful information there. Thanks for that, Megan. To watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, remember you can visit ournews.bs. It's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Italia?
Yes, Ken, great story from Megan. Right. Sunscreen. When I was younger, I didn't understand the importance of it, but now it's my best friend.
I was about to say, I can't get a moisturizer that doesn't have SPF in it, right? Because you just don't know. Maybe I'm not going to remember the sunscreen, but if I got to moisturize, at least I know it has SPF in it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Great story, Megan. Well, close to 300 migrants apprehended over the weekend, and a Works Minister executive claims continuous harassment of employees. Here are your latest headlines. Extreme danger. First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. Officials from the U.S. Coast Guard telling those attempting to illegally migrate to the U.S. they are putting themselves in a dangerous situation. The immigration minister speaks. Plus, a top works official says road maintenance crews are often harassed while on the job following the recent assault of an employee. Also, public consultation. Business owners weighing in on the current state and future development of downtown Nassau. We have the full story. And later, tracking your health. Grand Bahama Health Services encouraging young women to stay on top of their health by getting screened. What you need to know when Our News Live at 7:30 comes back.
With over
Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Topping news tonight, the Bahamian government in discussions to return the latest round of illegal immigrants captured over the weekend. The 275 migrants were taken into custody and brought here to New Providence for processing and detention. The media learning of the capture of what appears to be Haitians only this morning from the Immigration Minister Keith Bell at the weekly cabinet briefing. The U.S. Coast Guard reportedly picked up the triple-digit migrants in an overloaded vessel near Keysal Bank in the southern Bahamas on Saturday. A statement from the Coast Guard says those attempting to illegally migrate to the U.S. in an overloaded, unsafe vessel are putting themselves and their loved ones in extreme danger. The Coast Guard and our partners are committed to stopping anyone who attempts to unlawfully and unsafely voyage at sea. Now, Minister Keith Bell confirming they are being housed at the Carmichael Road Detention Center.
Of note and concern is that there are a number of children, again, involved in this operation. There were some 194 males, 60 females, 12 female children, and 9 female children on board this vessel, all of whom are now in custody here at our safe house and at the detention center. Efforts are now being made to communicate with the Haitian government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to ensure that these persons are treated humanely and they are repatriated to their hometown as quickly as possible.
All right, well, a 44-year-old man was arrested and taken into police custody for possession of an illegal firearm and ammunition. It was around 3 p.m. yesterday when traffic division officers acting on information went to Hospital Lane and South Street, where they observed a man acting in a suspicious manner, which resulted in him being searched. Now investigations are continuing. Officials from the Ministry of Works are appealing to the public to exercise patience following the assault of one of their traffic managers last week by a motorist on East Street South. Officials say the employee who required medical treatment is not the only one who has been affected, as road maintenance crews encounter harassment almost every day while conducting their jobs. Assistant Civil Engineer Bahia Hepburn.
The majority of times, persons are quite happy that our workers are there. And unfortunately, there are a few bad apples who make it harder for us. And that's why we have to consider road safety. And that's why we ask for continued patience. And that's why we try to ask persons, while you might want to go from point A to point B in the fastest way possible, we ask that patience be exercised.
Now, Hepburn says the lane closures and traffic diversions are to ensure repairs are completed as safely and rapidly as possible.
It's not just about getting from where you want as soon as possible all the time. It's ensuring that when we do these road fixes, that overall, after we're done, you will be able to go where you got to go. But there's always, everything requires repairs, everything requires some sort of maintenance.
With hotter than usual temperatures impacting countries around the world, experts are encouraging residents to stay cool, especially those who have to work outdoors. Jamila Mizik reports.
As temperatures skyrocketed in parts of the U.S. and China on Sunday, climbing as high as 122 degrees Fahrenheit, the scorching temperatures are being considered the new normal. This as millions around the world are under heat advisories as officials warn of danger to life from the hot temperatures. Here in the Bahamas, outdoor workers are being encouraged to take the necessary precautions to remain safe during the summer heat. Construction supervisor at Spartan Builders in Grand Bahamas, Zach Smith, tells us how they're coping in the unusual temperatures.
Especially if we're working on the roof, we make sure there's a lot of liquid on the site because, like I say, temperatures are really high. In fact, they're actually unusual for this time of year. And the wind, you have no wind blowing at all to cool you down, so what you try to is let the guys take a break as often as they can, make sure they cool down, and stay cool.
And when working outdoors, experts suggest wearing a brimmed hat and loose, lightweight, light-colored clothing. It's something Smith says they're also practicing.
Well, we have them in the long-sleeve, dry-fit shirts for one reason, when they get them wet. The dry fit actually keeps them cool instead of wearing a regular T-shirt or a shirt like I'm wearing.
And as for monitoring the weather of the day,
well, every morning the Sean puts out a weather report, and like I say, we do work under OSHA conditions, so they all know the safety aspect of working in these kind of conditions.
Now, if you or someone you know is exposed to heat by working outdoors, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends drinking lots of water and not waiting until you are thirsty to drink. You should also avoid alcohol or liquids containing large amounts of sugar. Wearing sunscreen is also recommended. It is also advised to consider scheduling tasks earlier or later in the day to avoid midday heat, and most importantly, take breaks in air-conditioned areas. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, great advice, Jamila. Well, a few showers around the islands today, but temperatures continue to heat up. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with a first look at weather. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Talia, and welcome everybody for a quick check on conditions outside our studios and around the islands. Right now, it's 86 degrees under partly cloudy skies. We do have a couple of showers nearby. Your winds are out of the east at 10 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature, a very warm 93. Satellite and radar composite, lots of moisture across the area. Tropical wave moving across the southeast Bahamas and eastern Cuba. We also have that disturbance in the upper levels across the northwest Bahamas. Both systems keeping us under unsettled weather pattern, so we're looking for a little more instability through tonight and into tomorrow. Some more showers in the forecast by that time, and we do expect some Saharan dust to be moving in by the end of the week. That's a quick check on conditions around the islands. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, revitalizing downtown Nassau is the focus. This as tourism officials consult with business leaders in the downtown community. Also, more promotions on the way for the public service, the state minister speaks. And later, staying on top of your health. That's the message from officials at the Grand Bahama Health Services, now encouraging women to get screened. That's all coming up when Our News returns. The state of downtown Nassau is in the spotlight once again. A stakeholders meeting with tourism officials was held to discuss and formulate a plan of action to address numerous issues that plague that area. Our Joshua Williams has this story.
The overall look and feel of downtown Nassau has been an issue for successive governments. But officials from the Ministry of Tourism have begun consulting with business owners and other stakeholders operating downtown to address the current state and future development. Global Relations consultant in the ministry, Randy Roll, says partnerships are key in fixing the issues.
We spoke about stakeholder engagement for the stakeholders downtown. I think this is the start of what we spoke about, and to get their buy-in, get their feedbacks, and certainly make sure that they understand that this is a partnership. This is what we need to do to get to the goal line where we want to go as it relates to downtown Bay Street.
A few weeks ago, Police Commissioner Clayton Fernando reaffirmed law enforcement's commitment to protecting the downtown area by providing additional resources and manpower. Roll says this is something stakeholders have seen and appreciated.
Well, definitely what we met and where we are now. Certainly, I am pleased that there's a greater presence of police downtown, and certainly that helps a lot of the business owners and a comfort level to what we're trying to do.
And as for other infrastructural issues in the area,
there's been some potholes that we've been able to fix, some drainage issues that we've been able to address. Certainly there's a lot more to do as it relates to cleaning the drainages and fixing some of the holes. We, for example, right in the front of the straw market, there's been a BTC box that's been there for at least 20, 30 years that was sitting there and, just an eyesore. I'm happy that today it's removed, it's gone.
Roll shares that despite strides made, there's still a lot of work to be done.
The old saying, tourism is everybody's business. And so once the stakeholders decide that they're going to get involved, they see the benefit. There's a lot to do, but once we stay aggressive and continue to push, I think we're going to achieve greater results.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks for that, Josh. Well, the public service is about 84% complete with promotions for accounting and finance officers. That's according to State Minister Pia Glover-Roll. Roll says about 15 are still outstanding.
Some still require documents, some do not qualify based on the policy, and some have adverse reports on file. So there's various reasons why persons wouldn't qualify. We want to make note that promotions are an entitlement, but you still have to qualify. So we are almost done.
As for when these could be completed, Glover-Roll says there's a process. The update comes after Bahamas Public Services Union members protested, seeking to get a resolution to the issue which they say they've been plagued with for years.
The Ministry of Public Service has open lines of communication. Every union leader in this nation has access to me as the Minister of State, to Minister Mitchell as the Minister, to the Permanent Secretary who's present, capable, competent, to all of the teams at the Ministry. In fact, the President of the Public Service Union was just a few days before the protest, visited our Public Service Commission, so I would think that he was well aware of where the process was.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When Our News comes back from the break, a Bahamian NBA star gives back.
The 2023 Babe Ruth Caribbean Championships begin this week, and the Bahamas wins the NACAC Championships in the Dominican Republic. Don't go anywhere. Our Sports is coming up next.
And are you staying on top of your health? While a doctor at the Grand Bahama Health Services is telling you to get screened early. We have the details when Our News returns.
March on, Bahama.
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury, Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, and Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
This is our news. Welcome back. The Junior Achievement Program has 10,000 reasons to be happy. Bahamian NBA star DeAndre Ayton stopped by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture today to donate $10,000 to the program. Ayton says he believes that organizations in the country should not have to go to others for help, but should receive it from their own.
Having the opportunity to go to the United States and, see so many resources and the risks they take to, even when they fail, they can try again. I'm just happy to be on this platform to give kids in the Bahamas a chance to, try something they would like to do and fail and try it again and just bring the resources to us instead of seeking it overseas or anything like that, or thinking the goal is to go overseas and try to reach their goal when we could do it here.
Junior Achievement Bahamas Executive Director Tammy Lackey says the funds will go a long way.
The support we receive is not only vital to our program, but it also allows us to inspire our future leaders while preparing them to succeed in the global economy. On behalf of JA Bahamas, again, we wish to wholeheartedly thank you. I could tell I'm excited too, right? Yeah. We wish to wholeheartedly thank you for your generous donation to the organization. And of course, we look forward to collaborating with you in the future on other initiatives that will benefit, communities as well as, students all over the Bahamas.
All right, great stuff. And now to a feel-good story for you. A local church is facilitating a basketball recruitment camp with recruitment coaches from U.S. colleges. Well, our Sasha Lightborn visited the camp yesterday and filed this report. Let's take a look.
Camp Road Ministries, in partnership with Revealing Truth Ministries out of Tampa, Florida, facilitated a basketball recruitment camp over the last 2 days at the C.I. Gibson Gym. The camp catered to students in grades 1 through 12 and had numerous U.S. college recruitment coaches in attendance.
On helping kids learn the game of basketball and help them maybe to get a scholarship in the States. We have 3 college coaches here that are here today, and just want to give kids an opportunity to kind of not just play basketball, to further their education.
The head coach of men's basketball at Polk State College in Florida is Brandon Giles.
One thing I've seen, man, is the commitment and the true love for the game. Another thing that stands out to myself is the attention to detail that these kids are showing. And that makes you feel well as an instructor, as a coach. Lets you know that the people that you're communicating with, they actually want to learn, they want to get better.
And as for Kiaj McKinsey, a local basketball coach and member of Camp Road Ministries, he says it's important to bring the church outside of its 4 walls.
Just following our leadership under Reverend Dr. Ivan Ford Butler Jr., who always preaches practical principles for successful Christian living. And being a Christian doesn't just confine you to the 4 walls of the church, the building. You know, it's going out there and doing community outreach such as this, and also giving a lot of the local talent opportunity and the exposure to be able to see that these dreams are attainable.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
The capital hosts a regional youth baseball tournament this week, and a group of talented athletes won medals in the NACAC championships. Here's Tej Adderley with a check on sports. Tej?
Thanks, Italia. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Our Sports. I'm Tej Adderley. Summer is heating up and youth baseball is back in full swing. The Babe Ruth Caribbean Championships are scheduled to begin later this week in New Providence. The Babe Ruth Caribbean Baseball Championships return to the Bahamas this week. Caribbean Commissioner for Babe Ruth Baseball, Greg Burris Sr., is ready to build on last year's success.
Last year we had an excellent tournament. The numbers of the team coming in this year has doubled.
NSA General Manager Moses Johnson said that the faculties will be top tier.
Our preparations have already started, and we will make ready all of the facilities and ensure that they are ready to go on day 1.
Now, the tournament goes through the weekend, and these are the best players in the region, so you definitely want to check that out. Moving on to track and field, the Bahamas came away as the overall winner in the NACAC Under-13 and Under-15 meet this past week in the Dominican Republic. The North American, Central American, and Caribbean, or NACAC for short, Under-13 and Under-15 track and field meet concluded in Santiago de los Caballeros, Dominican Republic. The Bahamas edged out Jamaica to win the meet, scoring 27,984 points, winning by less than 900. We had some notable finishes in a number of events, with Samaya Strawn winning the girls' 11-12 pentathlon and Trinity Roll coming in third to give the Bahamas the points lead in the event. The Bahamas picked up second in the boys' Under-13 pentathlon behind the efforts of Avante Lotmore and Emil Higgins, and Kieza Thomas and Alexandra Komalafe won third in the girls' Under-15 heptathlon. Our elite young athletes got after it down there in the DR. Be sure to remember those names because you're going to be hearing a lot about them in the future. That'll do for sports today. I'm Tej Adderley.
Still ahead on our news tonight, doctors continue to urge women to get their regular pap smears to protect against certain cancers. And Grand Bahama officials are pushing the message during a free pap smear campaign. And off and on showers all day in the capital. Hopefully these will cool down the scorching hot temperatures. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast when our news returns. Stay with us. Welcome back to our news. Scorching hot temperatures on this Tuesday with a few showers in the capital. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check-up weather. We still have a wet weather pattern across our area. We do have a tropical wave moving across the central and southeast Bahamas and eastern Cuba. Lots of showers and thunderstorms associated with that wave. It's a vigorous one. Will continue to push towards the west. There's also that upper-level disturbance near the northwest Bahamas that's keeping some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. We will continue to experience this weather pattern for at least another day before things clear out. There is some Saharan dust and a high-pressure ridge that's going to be building across the area from the east, and that should bring us some drier conditions into the weekend, but we will continue to see those hot and humid conditions as well for the remainder of the week. We have Dawn out there. Dawn upgraded to a tropical storm early this morning. It's now still churning out there in the open Atlantic, not really posing a problem to anyone. 40-mile-per-hour winds drifting towards the south. Eventually, by the end of the week and into early next week, we expect the system to turn towards the northwest and then eventually north. Still has a very small potential for some further development as it continues to do that and move into some warmer waters but by next week, we expect that system to be in some cooler waters and it should dissipate. Future forecast showing the moisture across our area associated with that upper level trough and that tropical wave that will continue to provide us with some showers and thunderstorms through tomorrow. Should be tapering off by Wednesday late and into Thursday. Most of the activity moving in the Gulf of Mexico, and that high pressure system and that Saharan dust should be moving across us by that time. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas. Small craft caution in effect for you guys, and high risk for some rip currents. East to southeast winds, 15 to 20 knots, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 9:23 tonight. For the central and for the southeast Bahamas, small craft advisory for you guys down there. East to southeast winds, 15 to 25 knots, seas running 5 to 8 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, as that tropical wave continues to pull towards the west, showers will stay in the forecast tomorrow, but by Thursday we expect dry conditions, and that should follow into the weekend. And of course, as I mentioned, some Saharan dust will be moving in, so it's going to get really toasty. Temperatures will be in the low to mid 90s, and your feels-like temperatures will be in the triple digits, so make sure you take care of yourself. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, the Grand Bahama Health Services Obstetrics and Gynecology Department hosting a free pap smear screening, STI screening, free HIV rapid testing at Paris Plaza over the weekend. HPV vaccines were also available. Dr. Sadabo says it's important for women to have their pap smears done.
We know cervical cancer is one of the leading causes of death among women in low or middle income countries, right? So that's why we want to make sure that as many women as possible are screened and have access to screening, because sometimes funds may be a factor as to why persons are not being screened. Also, in terms of the STI screenings, we just want to make sure that people know, because there has been an increase in sexually transmitted infections, that whether or not they have a sexually transmitted infection, and if it is, then, can we treat it?
And as for HPV vaccines and STI screening, she says the recommended age for women is 21 to 45.
It's actually recommended from 11 to 45, but for those who are here, 21 to 45 is, and if somebody comes in with their young daughter and they want them to be vaccinated, sure, we will vaccinate today as well. But in terms of the STIs, we're doing 21 to 45 just because we know that that is that age group where we can find an increase in the numbers of sexually transmitted infections.
All right, great information. And to see that story again, of course, you can visit ournews.bs. And with that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.